All right, so this should look familiar. This looks like an object, a JavaScript object. We've set it to a variable obj. We have some key value pairs. So I have movie and there's a value. I have budget and there's a value. I have genres, and apparently that's an object, which itself has some key value pairs. And so if we kind of review how that works, let's console log some of those things. Let's console log obj dot. Let's say I want to get to the movie. So we know that we take the variable name, which is my object, and I do a dot notation to get to the key, which will give me the value. So if I do movie, then I should get no JSON example. Then I should get to Hawaii 5.0, which in fact is happening. So if we need to drill down into genres, let's do genres name, then we just take that dot notation another step further to keep drilling down. In other words, we have our object name, obj, movie, which I'm not doing now, we're doing genres, so we're going to do genres. And then that's giving me the object. Let's just see if that is in fact what's happening. And so now I'm getting this object, right? And if I want to drill down even further, then I need the next key value pair, which in that case would be name. So now I should just get drama. So I don't want drama, but now I have drama in my life. All right, so let's keep moving on past the drama. All right, so in this video, I want to see how in JavaScript we can convert an object into JSON and a JSON back into object, because that'll come into play in our next video when we actually get data from live data using our API from another website. So we're building up here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable, and I'm going to call it my JSON string. And what I'm going to do first of all is kind of go back and forth. I'm going to take my object and I'm going to turn it into JSON. And the way that we do that is we're going to use an object that's automatically comes with JSON, with JavaScript called JSON. So I'm going to utilize my JSON object, and I'm going to use a method of the JSON object called stringify. And if I look at stringify, it says converts a JavaScript value to a JavaScript object notation. So I'm taking my JavaScript object and converting it to that JSON string, which is what ultimately we just saw in our last video that we get as a result of a request from another website. So I'm going to stringify my obj. So now console.log, I'm going to console.log that so I can see it. Let's comment this one out so I don't have too much going on in my console. I won't get confused. So now let's see what we get returned. So we get returned our object got converted into this long line, which is actually a string. So let me just verify that. What does that mean? Let me show you. Console.log. We're going to use something called type of, which is a method that's going to tell us what data type is. I guess I should have done the conversion. Well, that's okay. I kind of got myself in a tither here. JSON string. Oh, that's right. Okay. So once we converted, I got myself confused and I actually did it right. All right. So my point here was that I have converted my JSON object into a string, or into a JSON string, and we console logged it and it came out looking like this. But I want to demonstrate that a JSON is actually a one long string, and I'm doing that by using type of. So please tell me what data type JSON string this variable is now. And so let's just run that so I can see what's going on. Okay, so it's telling me that this is a string, which is how we're going to get our data back from websites. So if this is a string, it would be very difficult for me to pull out, like if it's one long string, how do I pull out the movie? So what I have to do, like think about the code it would take to write that. How do I search for the word movie? And then after I find the word movie in this long string, I have to go forward 1, 2, 3, and then parse out the next. I don't know how many letters are going to be in Hawaii 5.0. It depends on the movie. It could be something really long. So then I have to say, well, when you find the next quotation, just pull out what's in between those two quotations. I think you get the idea that programmatically, it'll be very difficult to pull out pieces of our data from the JSON string that gets returned from other websites. So this, in theory, in practicality, what I'm trying to demonstrate is that we are going to get our JSON string and we're going to convert it back into an object from our websites. And to do that, let me just comment out these so I don't have so much noise coming onto my console. To do that, we're going to use something called Parse. So I'm going to, what will I call it? Go back to object. So we're going to convert that string back to an object. And the way we're going to use that is we're going to use that JSON object again. And we're going to use parse. And if I look at the parse method, it says that converts a JavaScript object notation, a JSON string, back into an object. So the point here is that if I take that JSON string, so if I take that which I just converted into a JSON string for demonstration, then I'm going to do what we call parse, which is going to take that JSON string and put it back into this object. And so in actuality, let me just type that out, console log back to object. And so we should see that get converted back into an object. There it is. And the reason for that is, why would that be important, is because now that it's an object, I will be able to get back to, just like we did in the beginning, specific pieces of data. So now I could take that information, presumably I didn't have this original object, presumably all I got back from a database was this string. We already agreed that it's going to be difficult for me to get at individual pieces. So if I take that information and I convert it into an object, now I should be able to get at, let's see, console.log, back to object. So if I needed to get at the movie, let's do budget because we haven't done budget yet, something like that. So now I get that data back from a website, and I can, if I convert it into an object, then I can, let's just run it so I can see it. So now I can get at individual pieces of that data. So that's why it's important to understand not necessarily how are we going to create a JSON file, but I wanted us to see how that back and forth operation works. So in our next video, we'll take this parse method and we will parse out data that we get from another website that we can use on our own website.